Hey, church family and friends. Thank you so much for joining us for a weekly devotional. We try to do these videos every single week, and they come out each Wednesday morning. So if you want to subscribe to them on YouTube, go for it. If you want to subscribe to the podcast or you're listening via audio podcast, that's great too. We are so thankful that you do this. Remember, the goal here is for us to talk about ways to read and interpret scripture and then apply that to our life, with the goal being that you don't have to watch these videos, that you've learned how to read and apply scripture yourself. And so today we're going to be continuing on in the book of Proverbs, and we're going to be in Proverbs chapter 5 to begin today. All right, let's go to the text. My son, pay attention to my wisdom. So that's how Proverbs 5 starts. And right away, we know this is going to be, one of those chapters, the ones where the wisdom of the father, he's sitting down to talk to the son, and they're going to have that awkward conversation. I've recently had to have that with my son where, you talk about the birds and the bees. And this one is talking about this strange woman whose lips drip honey. And like most people, you may have heard sermons about Proverbs 5, uh, staying away from sexual sin, fleeing temptation, guarding your heart. All true, all important. But here's what I want us to notice today. Something deeper is hiding in this passage. Something about how temptation actually works and how seduction works. Because this passage is about adultery, but it's about more than just adultery. It's about this fundamental choice that we face every single day. Will we live focused on short-term payoff, or are we going to pay attention to the path, to where the path actually leads? The choice that we're taking takes us down a path. Are we paying attention to where that actually takes us? And so let's look then at verse number 3. For the lips of an immoral woman are as sweet as honey. Her mouth is smoother than oil. So honey and oil, these are good things. They're useful things. They're enjoyable, pleasant things. And so the proverb here, Solomon's writing this, recording it, collecting it, whatever you want to call it. He's honest about the appeal here. It's not telling us that, temptation is ugly. It's not saying you won't enjoy these things. The appeal of sin here is that there's something in the short term that makes it look attractive. The honey is real, but we learn in verse 4, in the end, she is as bitter as poison, as dangerous as a double-edged sword. In the end. In the end. And so that phrase is pointing us to the future here. Seduction is built on hiding the end. It's built on looking at the short term more than we look at the long term. Instead of, there's financial principles about, uh, think about the long-term benefit of, for example, compound interest and saving, these kinds of things. And so may be tough right now, but it's going to pay off a lot in the future. Well, temptation or seduction is the opposite of that. Don't think about the long term. Think about what you can get in the short term. And just like it's a bad financial decision, it's a bad life decision. And so the honey from the adulteress is in the mouth right now, but the end, the sword, the double-edged sword comes later. And what Proverbs is telling us is that you can, if you look through the eyes of wisdom, you can see the end and avoid the problem that's going to come by focusing on the short term. So verse 5 gets even darker. It says, her feet go down to death. Her steps lead straight to the grave. Now, this is fascinating because the adulteress herself, she doesn't actually, she may not even know this. She doesn't talk about it for sure. Um, but then in verse 6, we're told she cares nothing about the path to life. She staggers down a crooked trail and doesn't realize it. So, this is not some cartoon villain, turning the mustache and intentionally destroying lives. It's not like the Grinch at Christmas or something. She's wandering. She's not paying attention. She's focused on immediate pleasure, the present, flattery, the now, living in the surface. That sort of life where we're just chasing momentary pleasure. And so this is how temptation works. It works by narrowing our field of vision and making us uh what it was the term? Is it farsighted? So we can only see what's in the short term in front of us and we can't see far off. That's how temptation works. But this path of the adulteress, it actually doesn't work right. It doesn't lead where we want. And so we see in verse 11, in the end, you will groan in anguish when the disease consumes your body. You'll say, how I hated discipline. If only I had not ignored all the warnings. Oh, why didn't I listen to my teachers? Why didn't I pay attention to my instructors? I've come to the brink of utter ruin, and now I must face public disgrace. So there it is again, the end, in the end. And the person who takes this particular path will say, how I hated discipline. It's one of the saddest moments in Proverbs because it's the voice of regret. And it's this person who's finally able to see long term. It's like, I don't have my glasses with me today, but it's like when you put on your glasses, I'm wearing contacts today so that I can see far off. And it's that focus adjustment. And notice what this person is regretting here. They're not just regretting the action, they're regretting the fact that they didn't pay attention. They didn't listen to the warnings. They didn't listen to the teachers. They were warned. The wise choice was available. The instruction was there. And yet, they chose to ignore it and focus on the honey and ignore the sword. They chose the short term over the long term. They chose to not pay attention to where the path leads, the destination. They focused on what was right in front of them. So here's how this gets bigger than just sexual temptation. The pattern of honey now, but the sword later, it's how almost all temptation works. You can plug almost anything into this template. Could be a financial decision that looks great today, but ruins you tomorrow. Could be a shortcut at work that gets you ahead now, but costs you your integrity later. Could be a relationship that you pursue that feels good and tingly in the moment, but wanders aimlessly towards destruction. So the habits that we form, the purchase that we make, the compromise that we accept, all of it works the same way. Focusing on the immediate and ignoring the end. And that's what's wild. We live in a culture, the 21st century, that's absolutely designed to make us short-term thinkers, right? Every algorithm is built to give us that little shot of dopamine, the honey now. And every marketing strategy is collectively losing, it's making us lose the ability to ask, where's this leading? But instead, what's the short-term payoff? And that's not an accident. There's power to be gained by keeping people focused in the short term. There's profit in keeping people focused in the here and now. Because if you can get someone to stop focusing on the end goal, you can sell them just about anything. And so that's when we need to go back to verse 1. And so verse 1 says, my son, pay attention to my wisdom. Turn your ear to my words of insight. Pay attention. That's the invitation. That's the antidote to this seduction or temptation. Not to just avoid the adulteress. Yes, you should avoid the adulteress, but to develop the kind of sight that can see the end from the beginning. That's the wisdom that this proverb is showing us. It's to cultivate this wisdom that can taste the sword while the honey is still sweet, to see the end in the beginning. Because here's the thing about wisdom. It's not just information. It's not just knowing the right answers. It's the ability to see the full arc of the decision. It's tracing a path to destinations. Because here's the thing about wisdom. It's not just information. It's not just knowing all the right answers. Wisdom is the ability to see down the road. It's the ability to see the destination at the beginning of the path. So wisdom lets you live in light of the end, even at the beginning. And that's the wisdom that this father keeps telling the son to listen to pay attention, to consider. Because if we can keep that long view in focus, the temptation or seduction, it loses its power. There are some really simple ways to deal with this sort of tension in our lives. We can slow down. We can step back. We can get some distance between the constant now thing. One of the ways we do that is through practicing Sabbath, taking a day where we just try to not really do anything other than focus on the Lord, maybe our family, our relationships, people, and I mean people in front of us, and not the screens, not other voices, not what we have to do at work, but to just focus on who God is and how we can be of use and of help and of deep relationships with the people around us. Because it's hard to taste wisdom when you're scrolling. It's hard to pay attention when everything around us is designed to fragment our attention and pull us in different directions. So the choice that we need to ask, the question we need to ask ourselves is really, what will I be saying about this choice at the end of my life? And so when we take that sort of view, we're learning from Proverbs chapter 5. We're seeing that deeper level of wisdom that the Proverbs can teach us. So I hope that that helps you out today. I'd love to talk to you more about Proverbs or really any other biblical passage. I love talking about that stuff. And so you can reach out to me via email if you don't see me in person. Email is justin@greenwood.church. If you see me in person, man, come up and talk to me. Tell me about what you're thinking, what you've been reading in the scriptures. I'm usually at the information desk in between our services, or I'm out walking around talking to people, and I'd love to talk to you then. So until next time, I hope that you have a great and wonderful week. We'll see you then. Bye.